What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel, for everybody who doesn't know me. This is The Good Life. Thank you so much for coming. I got some announcements, but before the announcements, I just want to give a little preview to the speaker. His name's Yitzchak, very cool guy. He's one of my roommates. Very considerate. Makes the meanest cup of coffee you've ever tasted in your life. And he's going to be talking about relationships and overcoming expectations and other good stuff. I'm super excited for that. As far as announcements, this will be our last service in this space. We're going to look into, we have options of going to a co-op, or we're going to look into going to different cafes. So pretty excited about new locations and mixing it up and seeing what fits our vibe, make us feel alive, make us feel good inside. A lot of rap over this beat. But yeah, that's about it for me. I'm just ready to enjoy the show. So, yeah.
Way Hey guys. How you doing today? Good. Good. Did your day go well? Anything interesting happen?
Yes.
Oh. What happened?
I got some artwork in the Columbus Museum of Art.
Seriously? Yeah. Shoot. Dang.
That's it though.
Oh. It's good to see everybody. I've had a good day too. I spent most of it with my wife hanging out, getting Christmas gifts and whatnot, just getting it all early. The talk that I'm giving today is actually about, it's about a relationship and a lot of the complications that happen, in those situations. And it seems so simple trying to fix it, right? Like, everybody always gives advice that this is what you can do to fix your relationship, make it better, all that kind of stuff. And I tried to find that help, but it didn't do it for me. So I did more research and started getting into the science of it, the biology, the actual chemistry. And yeah. How many of you guys here have had the experience where there's somebody in your life who, and you'll see them at work, you'll see them at home, wherever, they're always complaining about the exact same thing going on in their life, or there's this recurring theme, and nobody else listens to them because they've kind of tuned them out, but because you're the person who actually gives them the time of day, you hear them, and they ask you for advice. And you give it to them, and they thank you for it, and they go back into the life, and then not too long after they come back, and they're complaining about the exact same thing. How many of you guys know someone like that? Or how many of you are that person? Yeah. Yeah, that was the exact same predicament that my wife and I found ourselves in not too long ago. And it went on for months. More than months. It was like a year and something. I stopped counting. Yeah. I'm sort of like a self-help junkie, a personal development junkie. So if a problem enters my life, I do whatever I can to just get rid of it quickly, efficiently, as much as I can at least. My wife is someone who takes it as it comes to her. She'd been struggling with a number of personal problems for an indiscriminate period of time, and I was the person who listened to her. I was her shoulder to cry on, and I bared with it for as long as I could, but at some point, she started asking me for help. And I answered the call. I gave her advice. I told her what I did, and she took it, came back with the same problems. And after a while of that, I started getting really frustrated. Yeah, really frustrated. And I'd tell her to do things to fix it, but she wouldn't, and then she'd get mad at me, I'd get mad at her, and it became a major thorn in our relationship, actually. A major problem, like a space between us, or a wall was building up. We were losing trust for each other, and I didn't like that. I wanted to fix it. I wanted our relationship to be, I imagined a more perfect union between us. And I knew it was possible to get there. So I went online, and I consulted help from the almighty Google. And I found different forums and articles and YouTube videos, people who went sort of through this sort of thing. And they give advice that wasn't really helpful. They'd say things like, you guys just need to listen to each other. Listen to each other. Or one of you's going to have to compromise on something. One of you is going to have to sacrifice something. And listening, been there, done that. Compromise, it felt closer to the mark, but still an oversimplification of what was actually going on, not the real issue. And I wanted it to be precise. I wanted the answer to be accurate. I wanted it to be, specific. If you're going to a surgeon and you're saying that you're feeling problems and they notice a tumor, you want to hear exactly where it is. You don't want them to say, it's in this general area, we're just going to start cutting, trying to figure. You want them to know where it is. And that's what I wanted. So I kept on digging deeper. I delved further into what the issue was, and eventually I found myself in what was to me probably the most unlikely place. I landed in biology. You see, the human body, in order to get us to do anything within our own best interest, in order to get us to do things, to incentivize us to get things done, it works through a set of incentive systems, much like at a job. For instance, if your boss wants you to get a task done, what do? They offer you a bonus. And what do? You get the task done, you get the bonus, everybody's happy. When you're children, when you want them to eat their vegetables, what do? You say you can get dessert. And what do? Exactly what we want them to do. Like, sex feels good, so that we'll do it, right? It's the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Now, in order for us to feel happy, there are chemicals that generate those feelings. The chemicals that are responsible for the feelings that we ascribe to happiness are endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Of course, the chemical that was pertinent to my relationship was oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is responsible for the feelings of safety, feelings of love, and trust, fulfillment. It's all the warm and fuzzies. And there are two ways to get it. The first way is through physical touch. We all know what that's like. It's holding hands, it's kissing, it's hugging, and they all feel wonderful. The second way is through acts of human generosity. An act of human generosity requires that you sacrifice a little bit of your time and a little bit of your energy and expect nothing in return. Otherwise, it's not being generous. It's a transaction. The easiest example I could think of is something we all go through almost every single day. It's when you hold the door open for somebody or somebody holds it open for you. Think about it. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because if someone's holding the door open for us, it is not within their best interest to do that. Because their interest is getting through the door. They're trying to get somewhere. Holding it open, waiting for us, kind of doing that, it slows them down. But it makes us feel good. And it makes them feel good too. And that makes it worth it. Our biological systems make us feel good when we do good to each other, when we're taken care of, and even just to see it happen, honestly. It feels good with these things because it's trying to incentivize us to do it. This is the anatomy behind pay it forward. And what it does is it reinforces the relationships that we have with each other. It strengthens our bonds. It makes us more tightly knit as a group. And when we feel like people have our back, we feel more capable of defending each other, supporting each other against the dangers in the outside world. That is the biological and anthropological reason for why we as human beings are designed to care for each other. Think of a time in your own life. Think of someone in your life who you went out of your way just to help them, to make them feel good. So I wanted to create the ideal relationship with my wife. Not a perfect relationship, not a flawless one, but rather a safe space where both of us could feel naturally inclined to be ourselves. Like, no matter how much we may bicker and fight, there would always be cuddles at night, that sort of thing. A kind of sincere freedom. But we weren't there. Personality-wise, I was like an unstoppable force, and she was the immovable object. And we both wanted each other to change. And then I would say things like, if you love me, you'd just change. And, in the heat of the moment, I actually believed that. All the pain and the rawness of it all, it was persuasive. But it wasn't true. She'd been struggling with a number of personal issues that had plagued her to the point of not being able to go outside for fear of being seen. A constant state of anxiety that crippled her and haunted her. And she'd complain about not having the ideal body that she wanted, not being as attractive as she wanted to be. And I'd tell her, well, there are things we can do about that. We can go to the gym. We can go running outside. It's a pretty nice day. If you're too afraid to do it on your own, I'll do it with you. You don't have to do this on your own. We can do it together. I'll help you. And she'd say, no, I can't. You don't understand. I can't do that. I can't do that. People will see me. I can't. To which I was just like, well, you got to do something. And then that just kept on persisting. And I got it. I understood. I know what it's like. I struggled with social anxiety a lot throughout the majority of my adolescence. I wasn't always this person who would be willing to come on stage. I was the person who stayed in the darkest corner of the room, either had a book in my hand, and just disappeared as quickly as I possibly could. And most of you guys know that. Most of you were here for that. And I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't want to be that way. Being the person who nobody wants to talk to, being the person who's too scared to have conversations. I felt disgusting. I just wanted to be normal like everybody else. And so I went online to fix it. I took tangible steps in the right direction. I went into my discomfort zone. I talked to new people. I met strangers and became friends with them. And even that wasn't enough because I still felt it. I still felt it. And so I wanted to go the extra mile, and I literally did that. I went into the city, and I interviewed complete strangers, and asked them deeply personal questions like, what is your idea of fulfillment? What is your life's greatest failure? What is your life's greatest regret? And how did you move on from that? How do you keep going despite that? Or what would you do with your life if money were no object? What would you see? Who would you spend your time with? Who would you be? And 90% of the time, these people didn't tell me to just screw off. 90% of the time, they sat with me on the side of curbs, and we just had these meaningful conversations. And complete strangers. They don't know me. I don't know them. And usually, it'd take me weeks, if not months, to get to this point with anybody else, but they trusted me. And I remember their faces to this day. They're ingrained in my mind because they were the ones who validated the fact that I had a voice people wanted to hear. And the fact that I was interested in the things that I was interested in, that I asked people these questions, didn't make me some weirdo who couldn't do small talk. I was willing to do what scared me. And that's how I got over it. It was necessary. So when my wife told me that she just couldn't, when she'd say that she wants a better life, but she's clearly not willing to do anything necessary to get there, when she'd say that to me, no, she doesn't want a better life. She wants the perks of a better life. She wants the sense of calm, the contentment, the confidence. She wanted to shine. She saw the peak of the mountain. What she did not see was the mountain itself. I was willing to climb it, to put in every excruciating step it took to get there, and she said she wanted a better life? And she'd say to me, I'm not you. I'm not you. I can't do that. It's easier for you. It's not. I know that the majority of people are capable of doing something. She was weak, cowardly, and directionless. And her unwillingness to change was going to hold down our relationship for however long it would last. She was burdening me in my life, and I hated it. I didn't want to be stuck in the situation. She was entitled, and I was the one who was going to be the emotional burden, the emotional anchor. I felt like I was the only thing holding everything together. The thing is, however right I might have been, however justified I might have seemed, living my life with that mindset was corrosive. It did not nurture a sense of compassion, not toward my wife, not toward my family, not to my friends, and not even to myself. Because here's the thing, I was forcing my own standards, my own expectations onto her, and lying, saying that it was for her own sake, saying that I'm doing this for you. It was never for her. I was impatient with her because I was impatient with myself. I was hard on her because I'm hard on myself. I wanted her to be stronger because I wasn't strong enough. But I was too afraid to admit to my own vulnerabilities. I was too afraid to admit that I couldn't handle it. And instead of asking for help, I lied and pretended to be stronger than I actually was. And as a result, I was destroying our marriage. Think of someone in your own life. Think of somebody who you force your own personal standards and expectations on. Where you wanted them to be not what they are, but what you wanted, what you needed. And ask yourselves why. Why did you do it? Why did you do it? Yeah, let's discuss that with each other now.
Sure you don't want to join me on this next song?
I'm sorry, but you sound wonderful.
Do I?
And it's really cool what you guys are doing. Because it's like, oh, how do we make the good life cool? Let's just fix this two-man band problem by adding in 6 more voices.
The next one's don't have any loops, but
It's okay, it's
don't
okay.
have any fancy shit.
Imagine what'll happen when you guys give the performance and it's more than just you guys and you've had more time to prepare.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And I'll be able to pay with you because I'm not going to talk.
It is kind of refreshing to have two people.
I like it a lot.
It's easier to just go with the flow together.
To work in tandem, trying to organize the drums and yeah. Cool. Hey guys. Cool. So, yeah, that was a fun question. Cool. So, yeah, I realized that in my relationship, I was forcing my standards and expectations onto my wife and lying by saying that it was for her own sake. When in reality, I was just doing it mostly for me because I wanted to feel safer. I wanted to feel better. And if she's stuck in a state of anxiety, then it made our relationship not as ideal as I wanted it to be, which means that I wasn't as happy. Fix the origin of the problem, fix the relationship, fix me. Which wasn't how it was working at all. When I realized that what I was doing was just protecting myself, when I realized that it was just a defense mechanism, I wanted to understand it more. It's like with the surgeon in the tumor example. I didn't just want to have a broad area. I wanted to know exactly what the problem was. I wanted to know exactly how to fix it and to eradicate it so it didn't bother us anymore. It didn't stand in between us. And so I went back to biology and I discovered that the chemical responsible for the feelings that we typically ascribe to stress and anxiety is called cortisol. Cortisol is the first stage of fight or flight. It gets all your senses highly attuned to look for danger. It injects glucose into your muscles so you become more stiff and ready to go, to fight the danger or to just run away. Or if you're a deer, you just stop in the headlights and wait for it to come at you. Yeah. It makes you stop trusting people. It makes you having to watch your back all the time. It makes you afraid and paranoid. And the thing is, in order to get the energy necessary to keep you in that alert state, it shuts down all non-essential systems. Things like growth, your fingernails stop growing, your hair stops growing. It shuts down your immune system. Because when you're getting chased by a bear, you're not worried about catching the flu. You're worried about getting mauled to death. It inhibits the production of oxytocin. So you become less caring, less empathetic, less thoughtful of others. And you don't trust anybody because you don't feel safe. You stick up for number one because you feel like you have to. Cortisol, it's necessary. It keeps us alive. But it is meant to be in and out of our systems quickly. It is not meant to endure. But when we live in environments where we don't feel safe, where we're always having to put on a facade rather than be ourselves, when you're always having to pretend, put on the mask of the happy person or the sad person or the pleaser or the strong person, whatever it is that is not actually who you are, and you're being criticized for anything else. You get little bits of cortisol dripping into your system. And over a long enough period of time, inevitably what always happens is your relationships become strained and your health declines. And this is what I was doing to Jimmy Rose. I was, all the criticisms, all the anger, she was already anxious. She was already stressed out, and me going to this person who already felt so small and just going, bah! Change! Be something else! It was making her feel smaller. It was making everything worse. And when she feels worse, when she feels more anxiety, I get more stressed out. And when I'm more stressed out, then I stress her out, and it just becomes a terrible echo chamber of stress. And that doesn't last. It wasn't lasting. When we realized that the problem wasn't each other, the problem was the environment that we were setting for ourselves. We began to tackle it not as a me versus you situation, but rather as a situation where we're both trying to make us feel safe, to make us feel loved, like this person has my back. And so when we realized that, everything got better. Not immediately, of course. I can't just proclaim in some grandiose action, I love you! Fire a diamond, we're done here. That's not how it worked. It was consistency. It wasn't the intensity of the action, it was the consistency. It's waking up in the morning and saying, good morning, instead of checking my phone first thing for any updates. It's making breakfast for her without her having to ask, being a warm presence to thaw her out when she is frozen in anxiety, and me myself being willing to be held and comforted when I'm feeling weak and unraveled in stress, being vulnerable, not having to be the person who takes care of everybody all the time. It's both of us being willing to pick each other up when we've fallen down. And eventually, after a while, not one day, not 2 days, not 3 days, it took more than 7 days, but less than 7 months. But after that, we were able to have that intense feeling, that intense desire, this knowledge that this person has my back no matter what, that I love this person and I know they love me. I'm not lying when I say that. And that I don't have to pretend anymore. That became the new standard. Take care of the people in your life, and they in turn will take care of you. That's just how we're designed. Thank you. Give it to the band.
In your house, say
This one's dedicated to Ethan.
Thank you for that water. My tongue was so dry.
Everywhere that I go, everywhere that I be, you are not surrounding me with your energy. Let's start over. Everywhere that I go, everywhere I be, you are not surrounding me with your energy. I don't wanna be there, don't wanna be anywhere. No place that I can feel you, just wanna be near you. And yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. Sometimes it gets unhealthy. I can't be by myself. We need each other. And yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. I just want you to know that. I could, I swear I'll go back, make everything all better. Ooh. It's the things that you say, it's the way that you pray on my insecurities. I know you're feeling me. I know sometimes I do wrong, but hear the words of this song. But I don't stay gone for long to know what's going on. And yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. Sometimes it gets unhealthy. We can't be by ourselves. We always need each other. And yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. I just want you to know that. If I could, I swear I'll go back, make everything all better. Ooh. And I'm coming back home to you. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home to you. I'm coming back home to you. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home to you. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home to you. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home to you. Coming back home. Yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. Sometimes it gets unhealthy. We can't be by ourselves. We always need each other. Yes, I'm a mess, but I'm blessed to be stuck with you. I just want you to know that. If I could, I swear I'll go back, make everything all better.
Big thanks to Yitzchak. Not only did he speak, man, that was a performance. Like, I felt so much emotion in that, and the questions were so thought-provoking, and I really had to look at myself, and I'm like, yeah, and big thanks to the band. You guys brought some freaking techniques out. Yeah. Also, big thanks to you guys. I think we have something special where we have a community of people who are willing to grow together. Not everybody has that. And so, yeah, just when we were talking during the questions, I was struck with gratitude that we have something that beautiful Yeah, I hope we can spread to as many people as possible. I forgot one announcements earlier on. Thanksgiving, we're doing it this Sunday at our house. You can feel free to bring everybody that you know. We're trying to have a real Thanksgiving out here with as much friends and family as possible. And I think that's it. Yeah.
It's a potluck, right?
It's a potluck, yes, because there's going to be so many people. Don't provide that much food. But yeah, so feel free to come, bring anybody. It's at 7 o'clock on Sunday at our house. If you need the address, just ask somebody. Ask Noah for the address. I don't have it. Don't ask me. Do not ask me. I'll give you the wrong address. Yeah, but until next time, please have a good life. Love you.